Welcome back to PC-88 Paradise, the series where we take a close look at classic games for the NEC PC-88, the most popular Japanese PC series of the 1980s. The original Hydlide from 1984 was a hit on Japanese PCs, and so while TNE Soft was busy porting the game to every PC in Japan, series creator Tokihiro Naito got to work on a sequel, which would eventually be released on the PC-88 on December 13th. 1985. Hydlide II, Shine of Darkness, was apparently released in higher quantities on the PC-88 than the original, since it's much easier today to find a cheap copy of this one. The game also has the dubious distinction of being the only Hydlide game that wasn't released in any form in the West, at least not until modern post-2000s releases, which don't count. So is this one of those cases where we were denied a classic gem, or were we spared from having to endure a terrible adventure? Let's find out. Hydlide 2 comes in a case just like the one for Hydlide 1. Inside there's a black and white manual. And here on this page you can see where a previous owner wrote some notes. It seems to say that honest is some kind of spell, and below that there are two nonsensical strings of characters beginning with TE. If you're paying attention, the answers to what all of these mean will be revealed at 2 points later in the video, so we'll see if you can spot them. On this piece of blue foam, the TNE Soft mascot, Gondar-kun, is asking us to check the contents of the package and make sure the right manual and everything is in here before breaking the seal on the program disc. And here we can see where the strip of tape that originally sealed the disc left a trail of void marks. Even though it says here that the game is compatible with some of the newer PC-88 models that came out in 1985, the manual says to make sure to only run the game in the oldest PC-88 graphic mode, V1S. In V1H the game will run too fast, and in V2 the colors will get screwed up. I gather that this game, like the first, was really developed with only the very two oldest PC-88 models in mind. Therefore, my CPU needs to be in the slower 4 MHz mode, and I'll also turn memory weight to on again. The game runs more than fast enough like this anyway. So now let's insert the disc and reset. First of all, Hydlide 2 is where the music in the NES version of Hydlide 1 comes from, so here we get that ripoff of the Indiana Jones theme, courtesy of the PC-88's Beep channel. And if you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, it's merely a coincidence that it sounds so close to the Indiana Jones theme, then listen to the intro in the X1 and MSX versions. Yep, total ripoff. The story of Hydlide 2 is confusing, regardless of whether you read the English version here or the Japanese version in the manual. We're in Fairyland again, and now some unknown consciousness has awakened deep below. That consciousness created new monsters and apparently also revived things that ought to be dead. Our hero from the first game, Jim, is never mentioned. Instead, it says that a boy from the human world was summoned across space-time by some monks. Still, many fans seem to insist that the protagonist in the second game is also Jim, so who knows? Again, there's a screen explaining the controls, and we'll strike return to start. Here we first have to create a data disk to save our data, so I'll go ahead and insert a blank disk in Drive 2 before carrying out the data disk format process. Once it's done, we can then create a character. For the parameters, I just copied what I saw somebody else use in a playthrough online to be safe. So now we can select Game Start and begin. The PC-88 version of the game has no BGM during the gameplay whatsoever. So as BGM throughout this video, I'm going to be using the much better soundtrack from the FM7 version, unless otherwise specified. So one major difference in Hydlide 2 is that there are towns, and you start off in the first one with 2,000 gold. At the equipment shop, you can buy only the weakest sword and shield, which I'll then equip in the items menu. Hydlide II plays a lot like the first one. You can press space to toggle between attack and defend mode, and in this one you can't attack at all while in defend mode. Since there's no gamepad support, I used this PC-88 keyboard emulator again, but this time in one of the pre-assigned auto modes to get space and return for the 2 trigger buttons. Return acts as both your cancel button and also brings up the main menu. From there you can bring up the camp menu where you can save and load your game. You can also adjust the game's speed, but I just left it at the max, which is also the default. The listen function just turns sound on and off. In addition to attack and defend, this game adds an additional talk mode you can enter by pressing 0 on the keyboard. This allows you to talk to the human NPCs on the overworld. As the manual explains it, you can chase after the people and they might talk to you if they feel like it. And man, is that an accurate description. I'm going to have to reuse this soundbite from the very first PC-88 Paradise episode, Ease 1. Talk to me. Hello. Come on, talk to me. Come on, talk to me. Talk to me. Hello. The information the characters give can occasionally be valuable hints for the game, and the dialogue is about the only thing in the game which is in Japanese, by the way. So we've got to level up, just like in the first game, by starting off fighting the weakest enemies. You can even kill the human characters if you want, but Hydlide II adds a karma system that will punish you for killing innocent humans or even some of the monsters. When your alignment is evil, humans might attack you unprovoked, and most importantly, you'll become unable to use the shops in the towns. Karma in Hydlide II is known as Forth, which according to Tokihiro Naito himself, was inspired by the Force in Star Wars, and misspelled either intentionally or unintentionally. With all the English in this game, neither would surprise me. They never did fix it in any of the later versions. To me, Forth sounds like Butthead trying to say Force.
Use the Force, Butthead.
What?
Use the Force.
The karma system in Xanadu was one of my most hated features of that game, but at least Hydlide II offers a clear path to redemption. To raise your Forth meter, all you have to do is kill enough evil enemies, though unfortunately it does take a considerable amount of time. Still, it's much better than having to search for poison to drink in Xanadu. If you want to level without harming your Forth level, you can focus on killing ghouls near the beginning of the game. The ghouls frequently drop black crystals, which among other things will prevent your life from restoring automatically while resting on the green. It's really annoying having to open your items and manually drop the black crystals by pressing D to get rid of them. Luckily, the black ones are the only ones you can drop, since the other crystals are required items for beating the game. Hydlide II also adds a magic system, and you'll gradually learn new spells as you level up. Magic is executed by pressing F1 through F5 on the keyboard, and you'll get a different set of magic depending on whether you're in attack or defend mode. Additionally, there are 4 camp magics that can only be executed from the camp menu, the most important of which is your standard healing magic called Reinforce. Don't you mean Reinforth? Since your magic auto-restores a lot faster than your life, you'll be using this spell a lot in order to stay alive. And though I guess detoxicate is technically a word, I still think it could use a few more letters. There, that's better. Another important spell is Search, which will show you where secrets are located, which is nice when playing without a walkthrough, which would be a stupid thing to do in this day and age. Don't play this game without a walkthrough. One thing you'll absolutely have to find is this key near the river. Keys are precious, since the game never gives you more than the exact number you'll need. Another thing to find is this tombstone, which can be destroyed. Doing so will reveal the only other town in the game, hidden in the desert. By the way, coming here without revealing the town and using the search spell will allow you to find this potion called the Mystic Drug. If you've already uncovered the town, don't worry. You can temporarily hide it by collecting a black crystal, so that you can still collect the Mystic Drug. It's an essential item required at the very end of the game, so you might want to hold on to it. Or not, you can sell it for a ton of money and give yourself a nice boost. It can then be repurchased at the same shop, but for the maximum amount of gold you can carry in the game, which you'll probably have by the end. I don't know, selling it temporarily worked out for me, but you might want to be careful since it is a required item. Besides buying the best equipment, one thing you're going to need to save your money for are training sessions you can purchase in the towns to raise your MP max and strength. You can undergo training multiple times until each are maxed out. For MP max, you've just gotta pay money here at the desert town, but for strength in the first town, there's a minigame you also have to successfully complete. Ascetic exercises? Yes, apparently that is a real word. You just trade blows with this priest, and sometimes he ducks and counters them. The winning strategy is to press space just when his stupid face is sticking out, so that it can be well punched. If you win, you can choose to stack multiple victories in order to gain even more strength without paying more money. But if you then fail, you'll lose it all and receive only a tiny strength increase as a booby prize, so better save your game before paying so you can retry for free. In the fourth match, you have to play perfectly or you'll lose, and this was always the last one of the matches I could win before calling it quits and collecting my strength bonus. So there's a ton of grinding to do for both experience and money. It's a lot more than in Hydlide 1, but ultimately what you're going to need to do in the first half of the game is find 3 dungeons on the overworld. The first is a 5-story tower. Like in the first game, it's dark inside the dungeons, and in this one you're not only going to need to buy a lamp, but also make sure to buy plenty of oil for it as it gradually depletes. In the dungeons, all the staircases, treasure chests, and traps are invisible, so better use the search spell or just use maps. On the 5th floor, you'll need to find a key by killing enough of these orcs, which spawn randomly. You can also find a chest on this floor which contains the best sword in the game, the laser sword. So one trick you can use is heading into the tower to get the sword early by fudging your way through in defend mode while saving and loading. Kind of reminds me of getting the silver sword early in East 1. Yeah! Now we're ready to kick some ass! But unlike in that game, here the laser sword really doesn't make as huge a difference as you'd hope it would. Improvement is always slow going in Hydlide II, even after winning a bunch of ascetic exercises and getting what looks like a huge strength upgrade. This game is always just one hell of a grind. So, the second dungeon is a cave revealed by hitting this rock a few times. In this one, all you really need to find is a magic word written on a wall. Honest is all it says. In the desert town, there's a specific spot you can stand in where you'll be asked to enter the magic word. Typing honest will transform the town, and now there are these holes you can enter in each of these pools. One of the pools will restore your MP and the other will poison you, by the way. Entering one of the holes will take you inside the river, similar to that one part in the first game. From here you can find the third dungeon, but you can also find this bridge that will allow you to get back up on land. This also works as a quick way to enter the river, by the way, which is much faster than using the hidden entrance in the desert town. The dungeon is here, and you can just pass through this wall to enter. The goal of this dungeon is to find the first of 5 colored crystals, which you'll need to complete the game. By this time you should have 2 keys, and you'll need to use one of them on one of these 2 invisible keyholes to open the corresponding passage below and get to an enemy named Azer, who has the crystal.
There's 2 of them.
You'll need yet another key to open the chest containing the crystal, so I hope you didn't miss any earlier. So after the 3 dungeons, what's left is the second half of the game, hidden below the poison pool in the desert town. This section is usually referred to as the Underground Empire, 5 giant-sized floors of frustration. Even on the first floor, the enemies are a sudden huge jump in difficulty compared to the ones you've encountered so far. You'll probably have to go back and grind in the earlier parts of the game before you can even think about taking them on. I used the orcs in the tower, but there might be much faster ways if you're willing to bring down your 4th. You'll still need lamp oil for the dungeons though, and luckily there's an unlimited supply hidden on the first floor of the Underground Empire, which you should be able to reach using defend mode. Before fighting the enemies here, you'll want to get all the way to at least level 12 so that you can get the Cloud spell, which lowers the defense of all enemies on screen, finally giving you a fighting chance against the Krakens on the first floor of the Underground Empire. Then you get to do even more grinding here. By this time your experience meter will likely be overflowing so that it looks like your experience is permanently full, even though you still haven't reached a level up yet. To see your experience increasing, you have to open the status menu and change the magnification ratio. This doesn't actually change how much life and experience you have, it just makes the meters take up less space, if that makes sense. Still, it would be so much better if the experience meter actually showed your progress towards the next level, like it does in the first game. I learned that other players were able to finish this game at level 16, so that's what I sure as hell was gonna do too. Even though it meant I would never learn all the spells, I was anxious to get this game over with by this point. So finally at level 16, I set off on my quest to conquer the Underground Empire. And boy is this a big, confusing mess, even with maps and walkthroughs. An important item you'll find is the Dream Staff, which replaces the laser sword as your weapon and stops most of the enemies from casting spells. Hey, I said the laser sword was the best sword, I never said it was the best weapon. You'll also find this fairy, who will reveal hidden passages required to finish the game. The most confusing part of the Empire is floor B4, which is actually 2 floors in one. To get to the alternate floor, you've got to first find your way to this screen and get this guy to appear by leaving the screen once. Then by exiting the screen upward and only upward, you enter the alternate floor B4. There you'll find a number of required items and fight these dragons, which take a ton of hits, but are surprisingly not that tough to take down with some patience. The main thing you need to find are the 4 remaining colored crystals. One that would be particularly tricky to find without a walkthrough is the red one, which you get by using fire magic on a certain one of these guys. Seriously, how did anyone figure this out? But once you have all the crystals, you can visit the final floor, which the fairy will show you the entrance to. There you'll be attacked by multiple versions of the end boss from the first game, Veralis. You don't have to defeat them though, just go around placing the crystals on the correct statues. Luckily it only lets you put them in the right places. Then we push these 2 chest knights aside and the end boss is revealed. Some PC-88 beep sound and a menacing voice booms out.
You've done well to come this far. I am the true god, though people know me as the evil crystal. Unfortunately, you die here. There's no way left to escape.
And here's where you have to use that mystic drug that was hidden in the desert. It will turn your character transparent, and then you just wait for the boss to die on its own for some reason, in what looks like a glitchy display of red squares. What the hell happened anyway? The ending message and staff roll are totally silent in the PC-88 version. The credits besides Naito are a bunch of TNE Soft regulars. And the last screen at least has another beep melody on the PC-88, which is another blatant ripoff of the Indiana Jones theme. There's a password here starting with TE. The first 1,000 players to send their password to TNE Soft apparently got a certificate for clearing this difficult game. So in the rivalry between Naito's Hydlide series and Yoshio Kiya's Dragonslayer series, I would say Hydlide took the trophy in the first round. Hydlide was graphically and gameplay-wise a far more advanced game than Dragonslayer 1, despite being released only 2 months later. However, in round 2, I would have to say that Dragonslayer 2, Xanadu, totally trounced Hydlide 2. While Xanadu is also not a game I can easily recommend, it took far more risks and featured not only superior graphics using the PC-88's V2 mode, but also FM BGM throughout the game, and gamepad support. And all of this despite actually beating Hydlide 2 to market. So while Hydlide 1 was a game ahead of its time, Hydlide 2 didn't take advantage of the newest technology available and felt a bit dated already when it was released. Really, the issue is that, as I showed in my Xanadu video, there were two PC-88 versions of Xanadu released simultaneously. One targeted at the original two PC-88 models, which used the old graphic mode and beep sound, and another targeting the PC-8801 Mark II SR, just released the same year, which took advantage of the new capabilities offered by that and later PC-88 models. Hydlide II, on the other hand, only had the one version made with the old PC-88 specs in mind. They never made a second version to take advantage of newer models. But speaking of other versions, let's talk about the ports of Hydlide II. The Sharp X1 version was released 3 months after the PC-88 version. This one adds BGM to the entire game, using the X1's PSG channels. It also adds Zelda-style scrolling to the screen transitions. Other than that though, it's pretty much the same. The FM7 version was released the same month and lacks the scrolling transition between screens. This one, in addition to having PSG BGM, even uses FM sound, but only for the opening and ending BGMs. It also has the standard FM7 issue where the character keeps moving even after you let go of the keys, when playing with the keyboard. There's a rare version for the Sharp MZ2500, which I wasn't able to capture my own footage for. Supposedly this one uses the same code from the PC-88 version as a base. The MSX version was released in November 1986 on a cartridge with SRAM for saving. It uses PSG for the BGM and has completely redrawn graphics. Since it's an MSX1 game, the enemies had to be reduced to only one color each, but at least this one has the scrolling between the screens. There is a fan English patch for this one, as well as an official translation from a 2006 European service called Womb floating around out there if you look for it. Though the PC-98 got a port of Hydlide 1, it never got Hydlide 2, so I guess PC-98 users were spared from having to play the second one. Someone made a fan port to the X68000 though. This one has FM sound that sounds awesome at first, though it sounds a little different. It's also the only version that has scrolling, so it's definitely an interesting, though unofficial, version of the game. And finally, like the first Hydlide, there was a version for Japanese flip phones released in 2003 called Hydlide II EV, but it's so lost to time I wasn't even able to find any screenshots. The original PC-88 version of Hydlide 1 was a short and sweet adventure and is often considered a historically significant game way ahead of its time. I gave it a mild recommendation in my video, for those who are into that sort of thing anyway. Hydlide 2, on the other hand, did much less to move the genre forward. What you could say it did was further solidify some conventions taken from other RPGs, like having towns, shops, and equipment, even before Dragon Quest I could do it. Hydlide 2 also offers a significantly longer and harder adventure than the original. Though if it weren't for all the required grinding, it could probably be completed in a couple of hours. Requiring a bunch of grinding is one way to lengthen your game, and many fans probably actually appreciated how it made the adventure last longer. But from the perspective of a player today, while Hydlide 1 is maybe worth revisiting, Hydlide 2 is mostly just a grindy mess, with a confusing final dungeon too. There's no reason to play through it unless you're making a YouTube video, or for the bragging rights, I guess. Personally, I'm happy to have added it to the games I've covered on PC-88 Paradise, but otherwise I probably would have been fine never playing it at all. I hope that now, having watched this video, you don't feel the need to ever play it for yourself. Thanks for watching this episode of PC-88 Paradise. This video is a request from my longtime patron, Olaf Albin. Thanks for making me play Hydlide 2. The other patrons are also scrolling by on your screen. Thanks to all of them, and thank you for watching.